Story 1. My name is Samantha. I'm 20 years old and I work at a Walmart by a small town called Jackson, Alabama. Since I don't go to school full time, my boss would often put me on an overnight shift back when the store was open 24 hours a day. Given that it was a supercenter, there would still be a number of employees working. My shift this one particular night was 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. I was one of only a couple of employees doing stock work, and there were one or two employees at the registers up front. Given that our store sits in the countryside of Alabama, we didn't really get much business at these insane hours of the night. However, it was a prime restocking period. I didn't personally know the other employees working that night, but it's not like we'd run into each other in the giant store anyway. I started my night folding pants in the men's department and generally tidying up. I kept headphones in at night because usually there would be no one to tell me to take them out. A customer came to the jeans section at around 11:30 p.m. It wasn't really that weird. People would still come in and shop until usually around midnight. The customer came up to me and asked if we had any more of a specific pair of pants in a different waist size. I apologized and told him we only had whatever was on the rack. He thanked me and walked away. I made accidental eye contact with him as he stood by the rack putting the jeans back. It was kind of awkward. He walked away and I continued with my work. Some time passed, and the store started to look like a ghost town. No one was to be seen as far as the eye could see. I think it was around 1 a.m. when I made my way over to the appliances section. I was doing a lot of back and forth work with boxes from the back section where we kept the items yet to go out. I brought a wagon full of boxes to one of the aisles and started stocking the shelves. Because the shelves were empty, I was able to see someone through the next aisle over, and they were watching me. Well, only up until he noticed me notice him. Then he looked away, but his eyes looked really familiar. I stepped closer to get a better view and realized it was the same customer from 2 hours earlier. How in the world could he still be in the store? Without making it obvious, I took the wagon with me and passed the next aisle just to see if the man had any items in his hands. His hands were completely empty. There was no way he could be shopping for 2 hours and not pick up a single thing. Something wasn't right. I quickly finished restocking the shelf with coffee machines and other appliances, then brought the empty wagon to the back area. I chilled out in there for a while because, quite frankly, I felt like that guy might have been following or watching me longer than I realized. I played on my phone for a little while in the employee lounge. When I figured it was time to get back to work, I decided I would do grocery work instead, just to be in a different part of the store. I went into the dairy cooler and filled a bunch of crates with products like milk and yogurt. This took a lot of time because I had to check the dates on the products. Over the loud sound of the giant refrigerators keeping the cooler cold, I heard the door to the dairy cooler burst open. There was conveniently a gap in the boxes sitting on one of the pallets that allowed me to peek through to the door, and I kid you not, it was that same customer. I ran for cover under one of the shelves and pushed a big box full of eggs in front of me. I didn't have to worry about making noise because the refrigerators were so loud. For anyone wondering why I decided to hide, well, I already assumed this guy was hanging around the store watching me. Seeing him in the employees only section, coming into the dairy cooler, something bad was definitely about to go down. I hid behind that box with my head down for the longest time, expecting to hear the doors to the cooler open and close eventually. After a while of hiding and not looking, I assumed maybe he left after looking for me. I lifted my head from my arms for the first time, looked up in front of the box, and screamed. He was right there smiling at me, standing over the box. His smile vanished as soon as I started to scream. He tried putting his hand on my lips to muffle me, but I didn't allow that to go any further. I pushed the box of eggs over right into him. The eggs falling to the floor made him step back, looking down at his shoes. I ran right past him, and he didn't grab me. I continued to run until I found another stock worker and told him to help me. The employee's name was Bob. I remember from his name tag. Suddenly, the man from the dairy cooler came up to the two of us and apologized, explaining that he was from corporate and was coming to make sure everything was running smoothly. He said he didn't mean to scare me and was simply checking up on me in the dairy cooler to make sure I wasn't slacking off. This Bob guy seemed to believe it all, but then, again, he didn't seem very smart. I asked the man why he put his hand on my mouth, and he said he was trying to avoid making a scene. Then, shockingly, he gave me the order to finish up the appliance section and disappeared. As he was speed walking away down the aisle, I called out, "What's your name?" And he called back, "Tom." Just like that, he was gone. The next day, I called one of the managers and asked if there was supposed to be a visit from corporate the night before and if a man named Tom sounded familiar. My manager, Margaret, said it sounded like complete nonsense. There was no record of anyone from corporate named Tom who was supposed to visit. Nor would anyone from corporate ever be in the store at 2 a.m. They went ahead and checked the camera footage, and a police report was filed when they realized this was a random man. The cameras proved this man had been stalking me between the aisles for the better part of the first few hours of my shift. I told Margaret I couldn't do night shifts anymore after that, and she understood. I still work there, but more so as a day stock person or a cashier. Story 2. What's one place you can go to find the weirdest, freakiest creatures in our society? I swear I've never been to a single Walmart where I didn't see at least one eye-catchingly strange human being. Strange does not even cut it for what I'm about to tell you. It was the Thursday before Black Friday. My Walmart was open extra late. I was in there around 11 p.m. looking for a new laptop. By chance, I picked up the last one on the shelf that was being promoted for a really good deal. As I grabbed it, some big, revolting, dirty-looking guy came up to me and insisted he needed a laptop very badly. I nervously said, "I'm sorry, it's the last one." He got angry and started making a scene. The man clearly wasn't normal, and my heart started racing simply because I don't get put on guard in these kinds of situations often. As others looked on at the commotion, I walked away with the laptop box quickly and went straight to a line. He kept yelling at me as I walked away. It was unbelievable. Some other customers in line even tried to laugh with me to make me feel better, saying the guy was a nut. I got home and my family was all asleep already. I went outside to sit in the yard by the pool and set up my new laptop. Then the security light on the side of the house turned on, the one that triggers due to movement. I went to check to make sure no one was there. Would that thing go off once in a while? Yeah. There's a small patch of woods right next to the house, so animals would often run onto the property, triggering it. Either way, I'm kind of a wimp, so I went inside, locked the door, and finished setting up my laptop in the living room. Suddenly, a car alarm started going off outside. I recognized it as my Cadillac. I looked out the window to confirm this. I ran to get my keys upstairs, then tried pressing the panic button to turn off the alarm. It didn't work from the inside, so I stepped out to the porch and clicked it off. Then I noticed a car parked in front of our house that wasn't there when I got home. Any car parked on the street in our block was suspicious enough. We live in a closed-off community where everyone has huge driveways. I stepped down from the stoop and realized there was someone sitting in that car. I went back inside and locked the door. I went to my mom's room and told her I thought someone outside meant us harm. My mom and dad have a complicated situation, so my dad doesn't always stay with us. It would have been a different story having my dad there. My mom came downstairs with me, noticeably worried. She took a look through the peephole in the front door, then gasped and put her hands over her mouth. I looked through it as well and felt ready to throw up. There was a huge man standing on the other side of the door on our stoop. I whispered to my mom, "I think that man followed me from Walmart." Suddenly, the doorknob started to turn as the man tried opening the door, but it was locked. He started pounding on the door. That's when my mom let out a cry, and my younger sister came out of her room, also panicking as she realized what was happening. The pounding stopped. There was silence for a while, other than my mom's voice on the phone with the police. A few minutes went by with my mom still on the line with 911. Then there was a loud bang and a crash downstairs in the den. A window had been shattered. My mom and sister both screamed. I told them to run upstairs while I locked the door to the den. I waited there expecting an attempt at the door. Nothing. Surprisingly, I heard a police car briefly wail its siren outside. It was the quickest response time I'd ever heard of. I ran outside to lead them to the den. There, they found the huge, dirty, crazy-looking man hiding behind one of our couches. He was arrested at once, and we pressed charges. All the while, he was screaming profanities and threats at me, which didn't help his case. Both cops told me the guy seemed unstable and was likely on some kind of drugs. They told us to get a good night's rest because he wouldn't be bothering us again. So, while it may be fun to people watch at Walmart and laugh at the goofy things you see, realize you may also find some of the most dangerous people in our society there. Story 3. Working the night shift at Walmart as a stock person on the weekends was my second job when I was finishing up college. I needed to pay off my loans, so I had to make money however possible. I didn't deal with customers. I would just sign for night deliveries, do warehouse work, and stock shelves. The typical shift would be either 11 to 7 or 12 to 7. On Thursday night, July 9th, 2015, I still have it locked into my brain. I was midway through my shift in the electronics department when I saw someone walk past the aisle I was working in out of the corner of my eye. This wouldn't usually catch my attention, but there were only two other workers in the building with me that night, Alvin and Baco. They were both wearing the same staff shirts I was. I knew because we all clocked in at the same time. The person I saw was wearing all black. I walked to the end of the aisle and peeked around the shelf. No one was there. I yelled both Alvin and Baco's names. When they didn't answer, it made it even stranger. Regardless, I went back to work. I had been holding in a pee for a while and told myself I'd go when I finished that aisle. Seconds later, there was a huge crash a few aisles down. It actually startled me. I ran over to see what it was. A bicycle had been knocked off its hook. The hook was still fine and in place. It seemed like someone would have had to put effort into knocking it down. I hung it back up and started walking around the aisles, suspicious as hell. I got to the last aisle towards the back of the store, the paper and cleaning aisle. Then there was this freaky sound that I can only describe as a laugh. It sounded like it came from literally the next aisle over. Once again, I ran back to that aisle and felt my heart drop. I saw a man dressed in all black, waiting at the end of the aisle with his back to me, but his head was turned so that I could only see half of his face. Then he suddenly ran. Not towards me, but down another aisle. I heard his footsteps echoing. I was faced with a choice: chase after him or find my coworkers. I chose the latter. All the while, I heard those freakish laughing sounds and footsteps that felt like they were circling me. I found Alvin in the women's department and told him to be on the lookout for someone in all black. We didn't have walkie-talkies, so I asked him to tell Baco if he ran into him. I excused myself because I couldn't hold it any longer. I ran to the employees-only bathroom in the warehouse section. I put a nest of toilet paper on the seat and sat down. The door to the bathroom opened and closed. Naturally, knowing there were only a few people in the building, I said, "Who is that?" With no answer, I assumed the worst. I heard that horrific laughing again, and someone stepped into view through the crack in the stall door. They stepped closer until the crack was completely blocked, and all I could see of their face was an eye. Then the whispering began. Unintelligible whispering, made more unsettling by the bathroom echo. I remembered I had Alvin's number, so I got my phone out and called him at once. I was very loud, telling Alvin to get to the bathroom immediately. I stayed on the line with him and watched as the man on the other side of the stall left, then ran out of the bathroom. Uh, Alvin entered 20 or 30 seconds later. He said he didn't see anyone on his way there. We didn't have any security guys working while the store was closed, so we couldn't even check the cameras. I stayed by Alvin for the rest of the night. I texted my boss, and when I woke up at 3 p.m. the next day, I read his response. He said all the camera screens returned static footage from the night before. Nobody had gone and turned them off as far as he knew. I got chills reading his texts. He believed my story and assumed it was related to the camera malfunction, but with no video proof of a break-in or trespassing, there wasn't much he could do. It was all above my pay grade anyway. That was the only night shift I've ever had where something truly unexplainable happened.